Have you ever watched someone get pushed around so much that everyone forgot they used to be dangerous? At Elite Fitness Center in downtown Atlanta, Marcus "the Shark" Williams, a cocky MMA coach with 150,000 Instagram followers, made fun of a 45-year-old black janitor every single day. He kicked over his cleaning bucket, called him names that made people look away, then one night he forced that quiet janitor into the cage. Marcus thought it would be easy. He thought he'd look like a hero beating up some old man who cleaned toilets. But Marcus had no idea who he was really facing. The man holding that mop used to be a champion boxer. He used to train soldiers how to fight. And that one punch Marcus received didn't just knock him out. It destroyed his career, his reputation, and exposed him as a fake in front of millions of people. Stay with me until the end, because what happens in the courtroom will shock you. Hit that like button, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so you catch every story we tell. Drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. Now let me take you inside the story of James Mitchell, a man who stayed quiet for 4 long years, but in one single night became a symbol of justice that inspired millions around the world. The Elite Fitness Center sat on the corner of Peachtree Street, all glass windows and blue LED lights that made it glow at night. Inside, rich tech workers, wannabe fighters, and influencers came to train. This wasn't a regular gym. This was where people came to be seen. James Mitchell, 45 years old, pushed his yellow mop across the floor near the main cage. His hands were rough and scarred, hands that once threw punches fast enough to win titles. Now those same hands just gripped a wooden mop handle. He moved slow but steady, his eyes sometimes watching the fighters training. He never said much. He just cleaned. Marcus Williams was different. At 32 years old, he stood tall, muscles everywhere, walking around in expensive training gear. His shoes alone cost more than James made in a month. Marcus owned 25% of Elite Fitness, and he never let anyone forget it. He stopped right behind James, so close James could smell his cologne. "Hurry up, old man. I got new clients coming in, and this floor looks terrible." Before James could even turn around, Marcus kicked the bucket. Hard. Dirty water splashed everywhere. The mop flew out of James's hands, and he stumbled, falling onto the wet floor. Everything stopped. About 30 young guys training in the gym all turned to look. Some pulled out their phones, recording. Marcus laughed loud. "Maybe if you focused on your job instead of staring at real fighters, this place would actually be clean." James pushed himself up with one hand. His uniform was soaked. His face showed nothing. No anger, no fear. Just that same quiet look he always had. Behind the front desk, Sarah Chen, the gym manager, looked down at her computer. She saw what happened. She always saw, but she never said anything. This wasn't the first time Marcus treated staff like garbage. But James was different from the others. He never fought back, never complained. Just kept working. But his eyes, Sarah noticed, held something. Something Marcus was too stupid to see. Marcus kicked the bucket over again, making the mess even worse. "There, now you got more work to do. You should thank me for the job security." A couple guys laughed, but most stayed quiet, uncomfortable. James picked up his mop and started cleaning again. Like nothing happened. But inside his head he heard sounds from long ago. The sound of boxing ring bells, the roar of crowds, the leather smack of gloves hitting flesh. Sounds from when he was somebody. For 4 years now, James came through the back door every evening at 6 o'clock. Same time, every time. With his mop, his bucket, his broom, he became invisible, part of the walls. Nobody noticed him. Nobody cared. He made $13 an hour at this fancy gym. Barely enough, but it was enough to help take care of Maya, his 19-year-old daughter. After his wife died from cancer 3 years ago, James gave up everything. Every trophy, every memory of fighting, all of it, just to keep food on the table and keep Maya in community college. Marcus was the opposite. He never made it as a real fighter. Failed in every amateur tournament he entered. So he became a coach instead, training rich kids who wanted to feel tough. His Instagram was full of videos showing him knocking out his own students, with captions like "alpha mentality" and "built different." He thought he was king of elite fitness. And like every king who never earned his crown, he needed someone weak to prove he was strong. To Marcus, James was perfect. An easy target. The gym got back to normal. Guys hitting bags, music pumping. But in the corner, old Coach Davis watched. Davis was 60, a Mexican guy who'd been training fighters since before Marcus was born. He watched James stand up and go back to cleaning. But something caught his eye. The way James held that mop, his back straight, his feet positioned just right. That wasn't how a janitor stands. That was a fighter's stance. Davis squinted. He knew that posture. Something was hidden inside that quiet man. James kept his head down, swallowing the shame. But memories came back anyway. The bright lights, the screaming fans, the smell of sweat and leather gloves. He thought about Maya at home, sitting at their tiny kitchen table under the old lamp, studying for her classes. She thought her dad was just a janitor. Nothing more. Maybe it was better that way. Maybe that belief was what kept him going every day. That night, after everyone left, James stood alone in front of the big mirror. In the reflection, he didn't just see a tired janitor. He saw the warrior he used to be. His hands slowly came up. His fists closed tight. "I was dangerous once," he whispered to his reflection. "And I still am." The next evening, Elite Fitness was packed. Music blasting from speakers, the sound of fists hitting bags echoing everywhere. The smell of sweat hung in the air. In a dark corner, James quietly collected dirty towels left behind by clients. Under the bright white lights, he might as well have been a ghost. The young fighters, shadowboxing and laughing with each other, didn't even glance at the janitor in the faded blue uniform. But someone was watching. Coach Davis never took his eyes off him. Davis had been teaching fighters for 30 years. He saw things others missed. The way James unconsciously kept his balance, even when bending down to pick things up. The way his shoulders angled, protecting his chest like an automatic reflex. "He's not just a janitor," Davis muttered to himself. Close to midnight, when almost everyone was gone, James pushed his cleaning cart down the hallway. He opened a small supply closet filled with chemicals and sat down on a plastic chair. His rough hands pressed together. Memories flooded his mind. Years ago, these same hands held championship belts. He was a rising star in amateur boxing, quick and technical enough to make opponents look foolish. Then he joined the Army, becoming a hand-to-hand combat instructor, teaching soldiers how to survive fights. But life never goes the way you plan. His wife, Angela, got sick. Cancer. Every dollar he'd saved, every prize, every bit of pension money went to hospital bills. When she died, James was left broken. No money, no spirit. From champion fighter to gym janitor. Every night, Maya sat in their small apartment 15 minutes away, her head down, doing homework. She knew her dad worked late to pay bills. She never asked why a man like him would take such a bad job. James always smiled and said, "Just study hard, baby. I'll handle everything else." That was the painful truth. Maya needed him strong. So he swallowed his pride and kept the job. Marcus, meanwhile, was living his best life on the other side of town. With 150,000 followers on Instagram, he posted videos of himself destroying his students in sparring. With captions like "Alpha Only" and "Sigma Grind Set." He trained young business guys looking for thrills, charging them thousands for private sessions. He saw Elite Fitness as his kingdom, but inside that kingdom walked a ghost he didn't know about. James. That night, with only a few people left, James stood in front of the big mirror without thinking about it. He held his mop like it was invisible. Then he dropped it. His hands came up. The first punch shot out. Jab, cross, hook, uppercut. The combinations flowed smooth, natural, the rhythm of a real fighter. Each punch cut through the air with a whistle. The mirror shook slightly. He stopped, breathing hard, heart pounding. "I still got it," he whispered. "I still do." The door creaked. Coach Davis walked in. He'd forgotten his car keys and came back to get them. But instead of an empty room, he saw James moving in front of the mirror, throwing perfect combinations. Davis froze. With his experienced eyes, he recognized what he was seeing instantly. This wasn't some amateur who watched YouTube videos. This was championship-level technique. "My God," Davis whispered. "Who was this man?" James turned around, realizing someone saw him. His body went stiff. Sweat dripped down his face like he'd been caught doing something wrong. "How long you been hiding this?" Davis asked. His voice was calm, not judging. James let out a long breath and sat down. Golden Gloves. 5-time regional champion. 2005 to 2010. 10 years in the Army after that, teaching combat. 15 years training MMA on the side. Now just a janitor. Davis stood there shocked. He couldn't believe the man cleaning toilets had that kind of record. The next day, tension rose. Marcus was training his star student Tyler Brooks, but the kid's confidence was shaken. He'd just lost an amateur fight because he couldn't defend a rear-naked choke. Ironically, a technique Marcus had taught him wrong. "It's not your fault," Marcus said loudly, waving his hand in front of the mirror. "Street fighters cheat. They don't follow real rules. Our technique is pure." James, mopping nearby, muttered under his breath. "No, keeping your chin that high gets you choked out every time." The room went silent. Tyler looked toward James. Marcus froze. "What did you just say?" Marcus turned, his voice ice cold. James flinched, looking down. "Nothing. Just talking to myself, sorry." But no one ignored it. Students whispered. Sarah looked up from the desk. Davis exhaled heavy, knowing what was coming. Marcus stepped closer, dripping with sarcasm. "You think you got the right to correct me?" "A janitor." James kept his head down, but finally looked up. His eyes steady. "You're teaching it wrong. That way the kid's gonna get choked out." The gym erupted. Students' jaws dropped. Tyler looked confused. Sarah reached for her phone. Marcus's face turned red with rage. In front of his students, a janitor had just challenged him. "Fine then," Marcus said, his voice shaking with anger. "If you think you're so much better, prove it." He pointed at the heavy bag hanging in the corner. "Hit it. Show everyone what janitor technique looks like." James shook his head. "I'm just here to work, man." "No, you're not getting out of this. If you don't, you're admitting you're nothing but talk." James looked around. Every single eye was on him. He thought about Maya, then he let go of the mop. He walked up to the heavy bag, took a breath, then unleashed hell. Jab, cross, hook. The combinations thundered like a sledgehammer hitting metal. The bag swung violently. The chains holding it screamed. Students' jaws dropped. Tyler stood frozen. That wasn't the movement of a janitor. That was the technique of a real warrior. Marcus was speechless. His face went from red to purple. The entire gym had just seen the truth. The man mopping their floor was better than their coach. James stepped back, regret in his eyes. "I shouldn't have done that," he whispered, but it was too late. Marcus Williams, the self-proclaimed king of elite fitness, had just been embarrassed in his own gym, and he would never ever forgive it. From that night forward, everything changed at Elite Fitness. The students looked at James differently now, some with curiosity, some with respect, others with unease, but they all had one thing in common. They'd seen something they weren't supposed to see. For Marcus, the embarrassment cut deep like a knife. Only one thought echoed in his mind over and over. "That old man must be destroyed." The next day, James walked in like normal. He hadn't even put down his mop when Marcus was already waiting, arms crossed. "So you're here. Good. I got plenty of work for you today." Marcus waved his hand. A group of students was sparring on the mat James had cleaned the night before. Sweat and blood from their gloves stained the floor. "Clean it up right now. And be careful. We don't want you messing up the client's gear." James gripped the mop handle tight, then silently started working. Every time he finished cleaning one spot, Marcus deliberately ordered his students to move to that exact area, dirtying it again. Everyone noticed, but no one said anything. Sarah sat at the front desk, watching with growing anger. In her desk drawer was a thick folder, reports, messages, evidence of Marcus abusing his power for years. But it wasn't strong enough yet to take him down, she sighed. "James, how long will you keep taking this?" But Marcus wasn't done. In the days that followed, he created a whole routine. Every morning, he inspected the gym with a white glove. Even when James scrubbed until the mirrors sparkled, Marcus would frown and point at nothing. "There's a spot here. Do it again." Patiently, James wiped the same spot 3, 4, 5 times, while Marcus stood there with his arms folded, eyes gleaming with smugness. "Good. Remember, if you know your place, you better do your job right." The humiliation got worse fast. Marcus started calling James by a word that made everyone uncomfortable. Hey, boy, clean this up. The word boy came out of his mouth with a sting everyone understood. The white students forced awkward laughs, knowing exactly what that word meant when said that way. But none of them said anything. James heard it. Every time. Inside, waves of rage crashed against his control. But for Maya's sake, he held it back. One evening, when the gym was crowded, Marcus walked over with boxing gloves in his hands. "James, come here. I need your help." James looked up and shook his head slightly. "I'm just a janitor, not a training assistant." "What was that?" "Get over here." Marcus shoved focus mitts into James's hands. James reluctantly put them on. At first, Marcus punched lightly, showing off for his students. But with every strike, his punches got harder, heavier. The mitts rattled in James's hands. His arms went numb from the impact. Marcus talked while he hit. "See this? This is how you deliver a precise shot. A good coach knows how to control power." Then he deliberately threw a hook off target, slamming straight into James's left shoulder, the same shoulder injured during his Army years. James winced. His arm shook. Every fighter's instinct in his body screamed to counter, to fight back. His fist clenched, then loosened. He dropped the mitts and walked away. Marcus shouted after him, "That's right. Walk away like a coward. At least you know your place." The harassment didn't stop at the gym. Marcus took it online. One night, security camera footage of James hitting the heavy bag appeared on Marcus's Instagram. The caption read, "When the janitor thinks he's Rocky, know your place. Humility, elite fitness." Within hours, the video got thousands of views. Comments poured in mocking James. "Go mop the floors, old man." "A janitor thinking he's a fighter. Hilarious." "Stick to your day job, Grandpa." Maya saw the video. Sitting on her bed, tears rolled down her face as she read the insults about her father. "Why don't you fight back?" she whispered through sobs. "Why do you let them do this to you?" James quietly walked into her room. He saw his daughter shaking, holding her phone. He had no words to comfort her. The next day in the supply closet, Coach Davis found James with his head in his hands. "I saw the video. You're just gonna let him destroy you like this?" James shook his head weakly. "I can't fight back. Maya needs me to keep this job. I can't lose it." Davis crossed his arms, his voice firm. "Listen, I overheard Marcus talking to Sarah. He's already looking for your replacement. You're getting fired whether you take this or not." James looked up. His eyes changed. No longer just tired. Underneath, the old fire started burning. "If that's true, then I got nothing left to lose." That night, the clock hit 2 in the morning. Elite Fitness was silent and dark. James faced an old, heavy bag, his hands wrapped in worn leather straps, the only thing left from his fighting days. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, then exploded. A storm of strikes pounded the bag like hammers. Jab, cross, hook, uppercut, footwork smooth and precise. Sweat flew with each hit. This wasn't a janitor anymore. This was a true warrior. And once again, Coach Davis, coming back after forgetting his keys, saw everything. His mouth fell open. "Unbelievable," he whispered. James stopped, breathing hard. Their eyes met. Davis stepped forward, his voice steady. "James, you gotta stand up. Not just for yourself, for Maya, too." Rumors spread through Elite Fitness like wildfire. After those heavy bag punches that landed like sledgehammers, students whispered to each other about the dangerous janitor. Every look at James now carried curiosity, fear, and respect mixed together. But Marcus couldn't allow that. He sped up his campaign to destroy James. Every day, Instagram posts showed pictures of James mopping with captions like, "Passion doesn't equal skill. Stay humble. Elite Fitness." But the truth was, Marcus was scared. Every night he looked in the mirror asking himself, if it came down to a real fight, could I actually beat him? Meanwhile, James started changing his routine. After his shift, he didn't go straight home to the apartment where Maya studied. He stayed late with Coach Davis. Half the gym lights turned off, leaving only cold blue light across the floor. The heavy bag swayed like a ghost. James wrapped his old hand wraps, breathing deep. Davis nodded. "Good. Show me how much you got left." James moved forward. Jabs like arrows, crosses like hammers, footwork sharp and clean. Davis watched, nodding. but within minutes, James was gasping, sweat everywhere. "You've slowed down," Davis said. "I know," James admitted, his hands trembling. That night at home, Maya noticed her dad coming back late, his clothes drenched in sweat, his eyes red with exhaustion. "Dad, you've been training again. I saw that video the other day. You want to get back in the ring?" James sat down, unlacing his shoes, and sighed. "Not for me. For you. If I let him keep stepping on me, he'll take away even this terrible job." "I can't keep backing down." Maya's eyes filled with tears. But for the first time, she felt pride. "Then you gotta win, Dad." In the days that followed, the gym stayed busy during the day with Marcus showing off. He trained Tyler, his best student, and deliberately live-streamed every session. "This Friday, we're all gonna witness a lesson. When a janitor thinks he's a fighter, what happens? Don't miss it." Marcus laughed into the camera. Comments flooded in. "Team Marcus all the way. Teach him a lesson, coach." Marcus's image dominated social media. He wanted to prove his control. But at night, in a dark corner with no cameras, James and Davis began real training. "First, you gotta get your breathing back. At your age, you can't rely on speed. It's gotta be technique," Davis said. They drilled footwork, dancing around the cage. James got tired, but each step brought back old instincts. The second night, they worked on grappling. Davis threw James down over and over, forcing him to get up and repeat. The third night, they trained reflexes. Davis suddenly tossed a glove at him. James snatched it out of the air in a flash. Davis smiled. "The fire's still there, just needs to be lit again." Night after night, James came alive. His rough hands found their rhythm again. Every punch, every kick landed heavy and precise. The bag groaned. The floor echoed with his footsteps. Davis got serious. "Listen, this fight ain't just about beating Marcus. It's about proof. You gotta stay calm. Never let anger control you. One strike, clean and precise. That's how you end him." James nodded. "I understand. This isn't revenge. It's about getting back my dignity." Meanwhile, Marcus was training too, but he wasn't improving technique. He was building an image. He hired photographers, filmed slow-motion clips of himself throwing spinning kicks with captions like, "Technique never lies." Students crowded around cheering. But Tyler started having doubts. He'd seen how James moved, how he hit that heavy bag. Inside him, a seed of doubt grew. Who's the real fighter here? A week passed. James was exhausted, but his eyes shined brighter than ever. Maya wrapped his hands before training, each layer firm and careful. "Dad, I believe you're gonna win." He smiled faintly, resting his hand on her shoulder. "Thank you, baby. You're the reason I'm still standing." Friday approached, the day everyone waited for. Rumors of the janitor versus coach fight spread across Atlanta. Martial arts forums buzzed with discussion. Even amateur betting websites started taking bets. Elite Fitness was transforming into an underground arena. Everyone wanted to see one outcome. Either Marcus crushed the old man, or history would be made with an upset. And in the shadows, a warrior was ready to rise. Friday night arrived. Elite Fitness wasn't a gym anymore. It was an arena. Spotlights focused on the main floor where one man would be celebrated and the other disgraced. Over 250 people packed inside, students, business people. Even local reporters showed up, phones held high, live streaming to thousands more watching outside. The hashtag janitor fight was trending on Twitter. James entered through the back door. He wore simple black shorts, his hands wrapped in worn tape. No entrance music. No spotlight, no show. Just a man with calm eyes. On the opposite side, Marcus appeared like a celebrity. Designer hoodie. Students surrounding him, Tyler holding a towel at his corner. Marcus smiled, raising his arms to the crowd like this was his personal concert. "You've all been waiting. Now watch me teach this old man his final lesson," Marcus shouted into a camera. The crowd roared. Sarah, acting as the reluctant referee, stepped into the center. Her voice shook but stayed firm. 3 rounds. 3 minutes each. Whoever can't continue loses. Both sides touch gloves. Marcus laughed, walking forward with his gloves out. "Hope you're ready to be a joke, old man." James touched gloves lightly, silent, eyes calm as still water. "Fight!" Sarah called. The crowd exploded. Marcus charged like a raging bull, throwing wild combinations. The first punch grazed past James's ear. The second missed by inches. James rolled his shoulder, stepped back, dropped his stance. Every movement clean, efficient, like it was calculated beforehand. The crowd stirred. They expected violence, but instead they saw control. Marcus snarled, throwing a heavy right hook. James pivoted left, letting the punch sail harmlessly past. Coach Davis smiled from the corner. That's it. Let him wear himself out. James's first real punch landed like a wake-up call. A sharp jab straight to Marcus's face. Lightning fast. Marcus staggered back, hand on his nose, eyes wide with shock. "What the hell?" he muttered. James said nothing. He reset his stance like that jab was just a test. The crowd gasped. Tyler, standing in Marcus's corner, started seeing things clearly. He'd trained under Marcus for 3 years, but watching just a few slips and jabs, he realized this was real technique, not the fake stuff Marcus taught. Round 1 ended with Marcus barely touching James. Instead, he'd eaten 3 stiff jabs to the face, light, but enough to remind everyone this janitor was no joke. Marcus slumped into his corner, breathing hard. "Why isn't he hitting harder?" he snapped. Tyler avoided eye contact, whispering, "Maybe because he doesn't have to." Round 2 began. Marcus tried to adjust, feinting and moving more, but James had read him completely. He slipped, blocked, and countered with sharp jabs and crosses. A clean left hook dug into Marcus's ribs, folding him over and making him gasp for air. The crowd exploded in cheers. Davis whispered, "This isn't a fight. This is a teaching lesson. He's showing Marcus what real martial arts look like." Marcus got reckless, charging wildly. But every time he threw a punch, James vanished from range. All Marcus was left with was frustration and embarrassment. "Stand still and fight, coward!" Marcus screamed mid-round. James replied calmly, "I don't prove myself by shouting. Just one clean strike. That's all I need." The crowd began to shift. Chants of "James, James" rose up, drowning out cheers for Marcus. Livestream comments flooded in. "He's making Marcus look like a fool. This is real martial arts. The janitor is a legend." Sarah, acting as referee, held her breath with every exchange. She'd seen enough to know Marcus was being taught a painful lesson he'd never forget. Round 2 ended. Marcus stumbled back to his corner, dripping sweat, panic filling his eyes. "He's playing with me. He's toying with me," Marcus raged. Tyler looked straight at him, speaking truth for the first time. "No, he's controlling everything. He's better than you, Marcus." Marcus glared at him, but deep down, he knew it was true. Round 3 began. Marcus gambled everything. He loaded up a massive overhand right, putting his whole body weight behind it. James waited. Just a split second. As the punch came toward him, he pivoted, stepped inside, and unleashed a perfect left hook. The impact cracked like thunder. Marcus collapsed to the floor, unconscious. The entire gym erupted in thunderous cheers and screams. James didn't raise his hands in celebration. Instead, he knelt beside Marcus, checking his breathing, gently lifting his head. "You okay?" he asked softly with real concern. Marcus's eyes fluttered open, dazed and confused. His career, his reputation, his fake throne had all crumbled with one clean punch. Livestream feeds instantly flooded with a new hashtag, Justice for James. Davis stepped into the ring, placing a trembling hand on James's shoulder. "You just showed everyone what true strength really is." Sarah steadied her voice and announced, "The winner, James Mitchell." The roar shook the building, shook the city. The fight was over, but the real battle was just beginning. That same night, all those phones raised inside Elite Fitness captured the moment Marcus collapsed from a single left hook by James. The video clip was less than 20 seconds long. The title read, "Janitor knocks out MMA coach with one punch." Within just 1 hour, the video hit 200,000 views. Comments flooded in fast. "This is what a real fighter looks like. Perfect technique. Light, effortless, but absolutely precise. Respect to this janitor." Marcus got exposed so bad. That's what happens when you bully the wrong person. The hashtag Justice for James shot straight to the top trending spot in Atlanta. In their small apartment, Maya sat by her laptop, eyes red but her face glowing with pride. She replayed the clip over and over, her hands shaking. "Dad, you did it. You really did it," She opened TikTok and recorded a short video about her father. The man the world dismissed had stood up and fought back with dignity. Within hours, Maya's video hit 2 million views. The online community started calling James the silent hero. Meanwhile, in his luxury apartment uptown, Marcus woke up to sharp pain in his jaw. His face swollen, his mind in chaos. On the TV, the morning news replayed his knockout. The news anchor smirked. Sometimes you shouldn't underestimate people who seem weak. Marcus roared, throwing the remote control against the wall, shattering it. No, this can't be the end for me. He grabbed his phone, scrolling through hateful comments on his own page. Then he called Richard Kellerman, a ruthless lawyer known for flipping cases and winning dirty. I want to sue. I want him in prison. I don't care what it takes. Make him the criminal. The next day, Marcus appeared on a local news channel, his jaw wrapped in thick bandages, his voice unusually soft and shaky. I just wanted to give him an opportunity. I never expected he'd resort to violence like that. I genuinely feared for my life. The news anchor nodded sympathetically. Across the screen ran the headline, MMA coach becomes victim in brutal gym attack. James wasn't prepared for the storm coming his way. Monday morning, he was jolted awake by heavy pounding at the door. In the hallway stood 3 police officers, faces stern. James Mitchell, you're under arrest for aggravated assault in the workplace. Maya screamed, No! My dad didn't do anything wrong? But the cold steel handcuffs clamped around James's wrists anyway. He was led away in front of his neighbors, their eyes filled with pity and curiosity. In the interrogation room, James sat silently under harsh white lights. His court-appointed lawyer, Jennifer Walsh, sighed as she flipped through the thick case file in front of her. Mr. Mitchell, the prosecution is painting you as a professional fighter who hid his identity. The judge slammed the gavel 3 more times, his voice like steel. Mr. Williams, one more outburst and I will hold you in contempt of court. Sit down this instant. Marcus trembled, finally sinking back into his chair, sweat pouring down his face. His victim facade had shattered into a million pieces. Meanwhile, James sat perfectly still, hands resting lightly on his knees, eyes calm and steady. The contrast was impossible to miss for everyone present. Jasmine looked at her father, tears rolling down her cheeks but smiling through them. She knew the world had just witnessed who was truly strong and who was nothing but an empty shell pretending. She whispered softly, Dad, you've already won. Even before the verdict. The air inside the courtroom grew thick and tense, almost suffocating. After Marcus's furious outburst, all eyes turned toward the jury box. Papers rustled. Quiet glances were exchanged between jurors. Everyone in the room knew the truth had finally been revealed. But would justice actually be delivered? James sat silently, his hands clasped together on the table. Maya beside him, her eyes wide, heart pounding so hard she could hear it. Coach Davis and Sarah sat just behind them, faces tight with tension, but eyes filled with determination. Judge Hawkins looked directly at the jury, striking his gavel once. Has the jury reached a verdict? The foreman stood slowly, paper in hand. The entire room held its breath. You could hear a pin drop. In the case of the state of Georgia versus James Mitchell on the charge of aggravated assault, we, the jury, after careful deliberation and consideration of all evidence presented, find the defendant not guilty. The sound that erupted was like an explosion of pure emotion. Half the courtroom cheered loudly, tears streaming down faces. Maya burst into sobs, throwing her arms around her father's neck. Davis gripped James's hand firmly. Sarah wiped her tears with a trembling handkerchief, smiling for the first time in weeks. James bowed his head, his hand shaking uncontrollably, unable to believe it was real. After 4 years of constant humiliation and weeks of being painted as a criminal, he was finally free, finally vindicated. Dad, you're free! Maya cried out, her voice breaking with joy. Judge Hawkins struck the gavel again to restore some order, then continued speaking. Furthermore, this court orders Mr. Marcus Williams to pay $80,000 in damages to Mr. James Mitchell, covering legal fees, lost wages, and emotional distress caused by this malicious prosecution. Case closed. The gavel came down with final authority. Cameras immediately swung to Marcus. His face had gone completely pale, eyes wide with shock and panic. From social media hero worshipped by thousands, he'd been unmasked before the entire nation as a liar, a bully, and a fraud. No, this can't be real. This isn't happening, Marcus howled, his voice cracking. But the thunder of the judge's gavel silenced him completely. Reporters swarmed the hallway outside like a flood. Dozens of microphones thrust toward James as he walked out a free man. But he only spoke one short, hoarse sentence that would be quoted everywhere. I didn't win because of a punch. I won because the truth always comes out. The hashtag #JusticeForJames exploded again across every social media platform, flooding timelines everywhere. Meanwhile, Marcus slipped out the back door of the courthouse, trying to avoid the crowd. His face twisted in rage and humiliation. His lawyer, Kellerman, tried desperately to reassure him. We can file an appeal. This isn't over yet, but Marcus shoved him aside roughly. Shut up! Just shut up! It's all ruined! Everything! Outside, protesters were waiting for him, shouting loudly. Fraud! Bully! Racist! He rushed into his car, slamming the door shut hard. But sitting alone in that car, he knew deep down his career was completely over. That night, in their small apartment, James sat on the old couch with Maya resting her head on his shoulder. Together, they quietly watched the videos spreading online like wildfire. Marcus's courtroom meltdown going viral everywhere. One comment that had been shared tens of thousands of times read, "True strength is knowing when to show restraint." Marcus lost everything by losing control. James kept everything by staying in control. That's the difference. James smiled faintly, his eyes misting up with emotion. Your mother must be smiling down on us right now, baby. The next morning, headlines blazed across every major news outlet. MMA coach loses everything after court defeat to janitor he bullied. James. Mitchell vindicated as Justice for James movement grows. Viral knockout leads to exposure of systematic workplace abuse. The Georgia State Athletic Commission announced an immediate investigation into Marcus's coaching license and conduct. Within just 2 weeks, his certification was permanently revoked, banning him from ever teaching martial arts professionally again. Sponsors pulled out one by one. His social media lost hundreds of thousands of followers in mere days, the numbers dropping like a stone. Marcus Williams, once the self-proclaimed king of elite fitness, was now jobless, disgraced, and drowning in debt he couldn't pay. For James, new doors began opening everywhere. Job offers to coach at prestigious gyms poured in, with salaries triple what he'd made as a janitor. Major fitness brands wanted him as a spokesperson, but he refused them all. In a televised interview, James spoke plainly and from the heart. I don't want fame or money or attention. What I want is to build a place where every single person is respected, no matter who they are or where they come from. An academy that teaches people self-defense, but more importantly teaches respect, dignity, and knowing your own worth. Maya smiled wide, listening to her father speak. For the first time in her life, she saw him not just as the janitor who endured pain silently, but as a teacher, a leader, and a symbol of hope. In a small coffee shop downtown, Sarah and Coach Davis sat across from each other, both holding warm cups. Sarah spoke softly, staring into her coffee. I lost my job at Elite Fitness. They fired me for speaking out, but I don't regret it for a single second. Davis nodded with a genuine smile, his weathered face full of warmth. We saved a good man from injustice, and maybe, just maybe, this is only the beginning of something much bigger. They clinked their coffee cups together gently, their eyes shining with hope for the future. 1 year after the verdict, morning sunlight bathed the streets of downtown Atlanta in golden light. On a busy corner stood a new sign that caught everyone's attention: Second Chance Defense Academy. Inside, a 7,000-square-foot training floor glowed under warm yellow lights that made everyone feel welcome. On the main wall hung James Mitchell's handwritten motto in bold letters: We train so we don't have to fight. We build strength to protect those who need it. We earn respect by giving respect first. On the green training mats, children laughed and smiled as they practiced anti-bullying techniques and confidence-building stances. In another corner, single mothers worked on basic self-defense moves, learning how to protect themselves and their families. Farther back in the gym, a former gang member who'd turned his life around sweated next to a 72-year-old senior citizen. Both training together as equals, stepped out of his small office wearing a simple black t-shirt with the Academy logo. He looked across the vibrant, alive scene before him, and pure joy sparkled in his eyes for the first time in years. Maya stood beside him, now a college student studying communications and managing the Academy's social media channels. She filmed a short video clip introducing her father's philosophy to their growing online audience. "Dad, this video is definitely going to blow up," she said excitedly. James chuckled warmly, raising a hand to wave at the camera. This wasn't the man hunched over a mop anymore, invisible and ignored. He was now a respected teacher, a community leader, a symbol of dignity and strength. Coach Davis, now an official trainer at the Academy, strode across the floor whistling happily. "All right, everyone, 10 jabs. Keep that form clean. This isn't about showing off your muscles. This is about survival and protecting yourself." He glanced over at James with a proud smile. "Mitchell, look at you now. I've never seen anyone transform so completely and so fast." James nodded humbly. "I didn't change who I am, Coach. I just found myself again." This. 1 year later, Netflix released a feature-length documentary titled Second Chance: The James Mitchell Story. It chronicled his entire incredible journey, from janitor humiliated and dismissed to anti-bullying icon and community hero inspiring millions. Tens of millions of people watched it worldwide, many crying, many applauding, all moved by his story of dignity and redemption. On the documentary poster, James's most famous quote stood out in bold letters. "Sometimes, the most dangerous person in the room is the one everyone overlooked." At the opening day of the Academy's new fall semester, James stood at the center of the main training mat, with rows of students lined up before him, young and old, rich and poor, every race and background. Maya raised her camera to record the moment. Coach Davis blew his whistle sharp and loud, and the whole room shouted together in perfect unison, "Respect! Dignity! Defense!" James looked at all of them, a warm smile spreading across his face, and whispered quietly to himself, "I lost a job mopping floors, but I found my true mission in life." And so the remarkable journey of James Mitchell comes to an end. From a quiet father holding a mop in a gym, humiliated and completely dismissed by everyone around him, he rose up, not only to protect himself, but to become a guiding light and inspiration for an entire community and beyond. That single knockout punch did so much more than just drop Marcus Williams to the canvas. It shattered arrogance, exposed lies and abuse, and proved that justice and truth can still be heard even in the darkest places where power tries to silence them. James's true victory was never about that fight in the cage. It was about the Second Chance Defense Academy, where he planted seeds of strength, respect, and dignity in the hearts of thousands of people who will carry those lessons forward forever. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button so more people can discover it and be inspired. Don't forget to share this video with your friends and family so the message of using strength to protect others continues to spread far and wide. And be absolutely sure to subscribe to our channel so you never miss the next incredible journeys we bring you, where justice, courage, and faith always triumph over darkness and oppression. Leave us a comment right now letting us know where in the world you're watching from. Your voice and support are the fuel that keeps us telling these powerful stories of turning the tables on injustice, where those once overlooked and dismissed become symbols of true strength and inspiration for us all.